Here's how you can stop procrastinating on your code project and get into that sweet coding flow state, where hours go by as you're hammering on your keyboard while getting that consistent dopamine hits. Or, as I like to call it, coder's high. One of the biggest obstacles to learning how to code, and when you're a junior software developer, is to stay motivated and keep focus, especially when you're stuck on a certain problem and you're exhausted from keeping on trying. You want the idea of coding, but the effort to do so is just too high. You end up procrastinating, your side project becomes forgotten, or you might have to finish that Jira ticket on crunch mode. I have 6 tips that have helped me substantially in my career to pull 14+ hour coding days. This is what I do to power through my moments of low motivation and energy and make my coding sessions a lot more fun. But first, I'd like to give you some tough love. This foreword is going to be probably the biggest tip in this video, so hear me out. Learning a new skill, especially programming, is supposed to be hard. And it seems like people don't realize this when they have a hard time concentrating. Concentration is defined as the action or power of focusing one's attention or mental effort. Notice these key words: action, power, attention, effort. Does this seem like something everyone's brain would do all the time for any task? No. Concentration is by definition hard. Yet, when we have an inability to focus, we claim that there is something wrong with us or with the stuff we're trying to do. And this is becoming such a big social issue now. Just look at all the people that are diagnosed with ADHD. No matter your opinion on that, it's a diagnosis that encourages you to take strong medication when you're having trouble doing something. And this is a mindset you need to get rid of. Because when you're learning to do something, there are going to be times to struggle. And you're just going to need to grow up, take action, and put in the effort required. To concentrate, you need willpower. Luckily, concentration and willpower are like muscles. The more you do it, the easier it becomes to put in the effort required to do it, and the better you become at doing it. They are also transferable across many different aspects of life. For a large part of my life, I was a jack of all trades, where I was good at a lot of different things, but I had trouble seeing projects to completion and becoming exceptional at something. It wasn't until I learned how to harness my willpower with coding that I started seeing serious results in the gym, which I had gone to for 4 years prior without any redeemable progress. Also recognize that you're going to have days where you feel tired, and you're going to use that as an excuse not to code. However, if I still force myself to go to the gym that day, I usually have some of my best sessions ever, despite being tired. I've set a lot of personal records in the gym while being tired. And this goes for coding too. If you just cut the BS and force yourself to code, you can get into that flow state anyways, and still have a great coding session. A lot of times, being tired is just an excuse. Yes, everything becomes harder, but still doable. Life isn't perfect. You're not always going to be in optimal shape every day. So recognize when you're using this terrible excuse and learn to power through it. I'm going to talk more about shifting your mindset at the end of the video, so make sure you're watching all the way through. So I'd like you to deploy the first tip while watching the rest of the video. Go on your phone and turn on Do Not Disturb mode. I don't really have much to say here. Just make sure you have Slack and whatever you need on your computer so you're still reachable. Tip number 2, audio. This is by far my most important tool for really locking in. When coding, your sense of sight and touch are occupied, but your hearing is usually not, unless you're watching the occasional YouTube tutorial. There are so many ways you can manipulate sound to focus, but they're all made so much more effective with a good headset. I use these by Sony, which not only have great bass and sound quality, but they also eliminate background noise. So wherever I am, even in a noisy environment like a cafe, I can put these on and still get a good session in. Also, you may have heard of binaural beats. Well, isochronic tones are the newer version of using sound to stimulate your brain. They're these weird buzzing and humming noises that make it easier for you to focus. If you'd like to learn more, I'm leaving a great article in the description. Put one of these on and give it a good 30 to 45 minutes, and you should really get into a deep focus state. A major part of having good coding sessions is making them actually enjoyable. For that reason, I listen to a lot of music while coding, and this is how I discover new music. If I have a song that I really like, I'll just put on the Boiler Room set for that artist and discover some new bangers on the way. Make your coding sessions a musical journey. Put on that album you've been wanting to check out, or just hit play on your Spotify release radar. It seems most people have trouble focusing listening to music with vocals, which I understand. For that reason, I recommend techno, lo-fi, or drum and bass, since these all have somewhat consistent beats. I have a playlist of music I use for deep focus, so if you're interested in that, leave a comment down below. Tip number 3, prepare your environment. First, are you even ready for a 2-hour plus coding session? Your laundry hasn't finished, you haven't cooked lunch, and your desk is a mess. Coding is sort of like running. Once you get to that stage where you're kind of on autopilot, if you stop for just a few seconds, it will be so much tougher to get started again. Make sure you actually block off undisturbed time where you won't have stuff you haven't done come and plague you mid-session. The best advice I have for this is using Google Calendar or any calendar app. When you run out of something at home or you read an email requiring an action in the future, put it on the calendar. It doesn't really matter when you put it, because if it comes up when you're busy, you just move it. Plus, you're also more likely to finish your tasks since you're giving them a specific time to be done, although symbolic. I learned this in a previous job where I had like a gazillion different things to keep track of over different apartments. But it wasn't an issue to me because I kept track of everything in my calendar. Also, just keep your place clean. I'm not your mom, you know why it should be clean. Mary Kondo, Feng Shui, blah blah blah. Also, have VS Code or your code editor on your dock. When I was learning how to code and I felt done with my coding session, I would still leave my VS Code window open and then I would go do something else on my computer. Then when I was waiting for a YouTube video to load, I would go back into VS Code and write a couple of lines. Doing this a couple of times, I would eventually just get sucked back into a deep focus session coding. And this is a great segue into the next tip. Tip number 4, taking breaks. Taking breaks is a very important step of long coding sessions, but you need to do them properly. I have this program on my computer called Stretchly, which pauses the screen for 20 seconds every 20 minutes. This is so I can look away for those 20 seconds and maintain my eyesight. During the breaks, the program also shows some very useful stretching tips, so I highly recommend using it. I've also found that going on my phone during breaks, it becomes so much harder to get back into a focus mode. So I usually do one of the following: go for a walk, clean my room, or a 10-minute meditation. Probably the best way to use a break is movement. For this reason, I keep a set of dip bars by my desk. So when I'm stuck on a problem, I'll just hop on the bars and do something to get the blood flowing. But you can of course just do push-ups or something. Now when your break is over, you'll find that getting back into focus will be a bit tough. So I recommend starting with the easier tasks in the beginning until you get into that flow state again. Tip number 5, caffeine. I don't really have much to say here either, but use it sparingly. If you take caffeine every day, the effects won't be as good. For that reason, I use it max once a week. You're artificially increasing your ability to focus and put in work, so don't waste it. Make sure you have everything set up to have the best session possible. This is anecdotal, but I find that drinking yerba mate helps me focus better than drinking coffee. This is a South American tea that you can probably order online. Tip number 6, clear motivation. Let's talk about motivations. What drives you to put in the work that you're putting off? Set specific goals. For example, if you want to build a web app, break it down into smaller digestible parts. Do you want to get a job in tech? Then research the jobs you're interested in and break down the skills that you need to acquire to get there. Make a list of these jobs and what each one requires. This way you can focus on what's necessary to reach your goal. Also, let me know if you'd like an in-depth video on creating a portfolio project to get your first job. When I start a new project, I always have the end product in the back of my mind. Once you have an idea of what to build, you can identify the skills and the knowledge you need to learn. One of the best ways to stay motivated is to work on projects that genuinely interest you. How fun is it really to code a calculator or a note-taking app? Coding something you enjoy is so much easier than something you don't. If you love music, look up an audio manipulation library for Python and try to build your own digital audio workstation. Also, get out of tutorial hell as quickly as possible. Tutorials are great for learning the basics, but to truly progress, you need to work on actual projects. This hands-on experience is invaluable. Another powerful motivator is to remind yourself of what you're escaping from. If before coding you were working a manual labor job, you had tough shifts working 10-hour days in the scorching Florida heat, this is as good a motivation as any. By setting clear motivations and goals and working on projects that excite you, you'll find it so much easier to put in effort and be focused. Keep reminding yourself of why you're doing this, and you'll power through those tough moments with renewed determination. So these are my tips, but like I said before, the thing that will have the strongest impact is changing your mindset. Being a software developer is one of the most sought after professions in the world, and it comes with so many perks. If it were easy, everyone would be one. So don't just break down and cry when things get hard. One of the most powerful abilities in this world is the ability to see long term and power through the BS. You want to enter an industry and have an exceptional career. You have to be exceptional. Don't give up.